There are growing concerns that veteran guard Bria Hartley intentionally took out Sophie Cunningham, who's out for the rest of the season with a torn MCL. First off, look at this play. Bria Hartley clips Sophie, sends her down, and then she smiles. That's what set everybody off. If this was just a tough basketball play, fine, but the fact that she smiled after, it seems intentional. But let's be real, this isn't the first time Bria's been in the middle of some drama. She's been in fights before, she has that reputation, and she even liked a post celebrating her being that player. And now there are fans that are calling for her to get kicked out of the league. That's how serious people are taking this. Now I want to hear from you guys. Was this intentional or just a rough basketball play?
Fans have been shocked by the WNBA once more, and not in a positive way. The shocking revelation made by Sophie Cunningham puts Lexie Hull in grave danger of becoming the next victim to follow Caitlin Clark and Sophie. One by one, the Trace Letches group is disintegrating. Do you believe this to be more than just bad luck?
Murphy's Law is once again in full effect for the Indiana Fever as Sophie Cunningham is ruled out for the rest of the season. So, what does this mean? They signed a new guard.
After ripping her MCL, Sophie Cunningham, who is expected to be a spark for the Indiana Fever this season, is now out for the season. Fans are sitting up because of what she said, even if it is already quite dismal. Because Sophie is implying that her teammate Lexie Hull might be the next player to succumb to what is now being referred to as the WNBA assault era. Let's go back now. The league's alleged golden goose, Caitlin Clark, has already experienced her fair share of dubious, violent hits. While some fans believe those had more to them, others think they were just bad basketball plays. Sophie Cunningham follows the player of heart and hustle. She and Bria Hartley collide in what appears to be a standard basketball play, but then the picture appears. Sophie is on the ground holding her knee, and Hartley is actually grinning. That was intentional, and you can't blame them, yelled the fans right away. The fact that Sophie had now established that it was an MCL tear requiring surgery didn't help. That's how her season ended.
There are growing concerns that veteran guard Bria Hartley intentionally took out Sophie Cunningham, who's out for the rest of the season with a torn MCL. First off, look at this play. Bria Hartley clips Sophie, sends her down, and then she smiles. That's what set everybody off. If this was just a tough basketball play, fine, but the fact that she smiled after, it seems intentional. But let's be real, this isn't the first time Bria's been in the middle of some drama. She's been in fights before, she has that reputation, and she even liked a post celebrating her being that player. And now there are fans that are calling for her to get kicked out of the league. That's how serious people are taking this. Now I want to hear from you guys. Was this intentional or just a rough basketball play?
This is where things start to get messy. On her podcast, Sophie attempted to play peacemaker by claiming that Bria is a friend and that she doesn't believe she did it on purpose.
No, I don't, because I know Bria and I'm actually really good friends with Bria, and I have been waiting to get on the pod and so we could talk about this because I did want to tweet it out, but I don't think that there was no ill intent. I think it was a basketball play. I was just in the wrong spot at the wrong time. She fell. Like, there's no way that she would go in there and potentially try to hurt me. And so I had nothing but love for Bria. And I even told my mom, because she tweeted something. I was like, no, Mom, I get it. But I promise you that I was like, Bria and I are super cool. And she would never try to hurt me, because there are some girls that I think might, but she wouldn't do that. And so I have nothing but love. And so I hope people stop giving Bria some heat, because I don't think she meant to do that at all. And I think that smile, it wasn't it was ooh, one of those. So I'm totally fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But let's face it, in order to avoid sanctions or league trouble, athletes always minimize things like this. Fans don't believe it. People's memories of that photo of Bria grinning after Sophie's death are etched in stone, and social media isn't letting it go. Let's go ahead to Sophie's remarks regarding Lexie Hull. In essence, she sent a warning that Lexie might be the next victim of this risky trend. That indicates Caitlin, followed by Sophie, and now perhaps Lexie if you're keeping track. All of them belong to the same circle. Every member of the Indiana Fever is ostensibly in the firing line. Fans have begun referring to them as the Trace Letches group because of this. Sophie, Caitlin, and possibly Lexie came first. Is it a coincidence? Nowadays, they are less certain. And think about the psychology of this. Caitlin Clark is already out for the Fever. Sophie is now gone. If Lexie Hull also suffers, it will be more than just an injury. It appears to be a concerted attempt to sabotage the future of the Fever. Naturally, the WNBA will pretend that nothing is wrong. They will refer to it as the game's physicality. However, when does physicality turn into something that is specifically destroyed?
But the Indiana Fever have announced that Sophie Cunningham will be out for the rest of the season. Just to give a little recap about what happened, basically the Indiana Fever were playing the Connecticut Sun and Bria Hartley, not shocking that it was Bria Hartley. Bria Hartley is involved in many messes in the WNBA, including recently getting ejected from the Chicago Sky game for getting into it with Ariel Atkins after pushing Becca Allen to the ground. She got into it with Rickea Jackson from the Sparks. She yanked Angel Reese's hair, and I know that there's another one that I'm missing.
Fans are furious, and for good reason. This goes beyond a single mishap. This concerns a series of questionable incidents involving the same small group of athletes. And by implying that Lexie Hull had better keep an eye on her back, Sophie Cunningham only served to fuel the flames. Not to be overlooked is Sophie's own response to the hit. She attempted to lessen the blow by supporting Bria Hartley as a friend, but she essentially acknowledged that viewers weren't incorrect to suspect something fishy might be going on. I'm sorry, Sophie, but smiles like that are remembered by fans. Neither the video nor the trend we are observing are lying. This is the worst part. Despite Sophie's attempts at diplomacy, supporters are aware of how this league is operational. Caitlin Clark has been routinely pushed, tripped, hacked, and handled like a punching bag for inexperienced people. However, to refresh your memory, she is no longer a rookie. Even in her second season as a professional, she continues to receive worse treatment than NBA rookies, who at least receive some deference.
So the Indiana Fever did report tonight that Sophie Cunningham will be out for the remainder of the season with a knee injury. Now, initially, the Indiana Fever didn't even report what the knee injury was. They just said that it would be season ending. However, Alex Filippo, she reported that Sophie Cunningham did tear her MCL and that she would be out for the rest of the season.
Now that Sophie has a torn MCL, rumors are circulating that Lexie Hull will be the next player added to the injury list. That is a trend, not paranoia.
Injury is such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever. Now they have Sophie out, Sid Colson out, Ari McDonald out, Caitlin Clark out. And I speculated this in my last video. I was like, I wonder if Sophie is actually out for the rest of the season, if this hurts our chances of seeing Caitlin Clark back on the floor this season for the Indiana Fever. And this is the last thing that I'll say about that podcast interview. As Sophie did mention, she talked about Caitlin Clark briefly and her recovery, and she basically just said, like, it is a day-to-day thing. Caitlin doesn't even know when she will be back. So she didn't really give any more information than that, but I think a lot of fans are speculating, will Caitlin Clark be back? Because Sophie is now out for the season, will the Indiana Fever risk it by bringing Caitlin Clark back? If Sophie is out, do the Fever even have a chance in the playoffs? Why would you bring Caitlin Clark back? Should you bring Caitlin Clark back? Will she be practicing this week? They have a tough stretch of games. Are they going to bring her back against a team like the Minnesota Lynx? We just don't know. And I, like I've said in the past few videos, I don't think Caitlin Clark is coming back.
Tell me, when was the last time you witnessed a men's basketball game with such an odd sequence? If a star in the NBA is struck too severely once, the league takes it very seriously. Players are sent off by referees, fines are imposed, and the commissioner may even speak. It seems like it's normal practice in the WNBA to smile while someone writhes in agony. Furthermore, it goes beyond the player's toughness. These injuries are career-ending. Sophie will be undergoing surgery. Caitlin's season has already been interrupted. And what will happen if Lexie Hull is the next to be targeted? If your building blocks are being torn away one by one, you'll be unable to construct a future. Supporters are. They term it sabotage. You can't even argue with them right now, to be honest. This is where things get much worse, though. The WNBA's response, or perhaps more accurately, lack thereof. Instead of treating these instances as severe dangers to their own goods, they consider them as trivial inconveniences. Consider it. More people watch Caitlin Clark than half the league combined. A popular character with charisma is Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull has been able to compete. In addition to harming the Fever, losing them all would reduce the league's marketability. Still, there was stillness. Just a shrug, no penalties, no punishments. Online fans are making connections more quickly than the league office will ever be able to. This is referred to as a pattern. Sophie Cunningham's remark that Lexie Hull might be the next one only confirms what fans previously thought was that this isn't an accident. This highlights the negative aspects of the league that the WNBA front management does not want to discuss. Are you curious about what is truly suspicious? Bria Hartley's answer, or rather, its absence. There was just that one eerie picture of her grinning while Sophie held her knee. No obvious regret or apologies. Fans can't get rid of it because it seemed more like satisfaction than remorse. Sophie's warning that Lexie Hull will be the next isn't only conjecture, if that's the vibe. It's a legitimate be concerned. The entire Trace Letches concept really takes off at this point. That nickname wasn't created by fans purely for amusement. The reason for this is that this season, Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull have been acting as a cohesive unit. They have been at the heart of practically every significant Fever occasion and are their friends and teammates. Interestingly enough, or perhaps not, those are the same athletes that consistently appear to find themselves in jeopardy. Since the beginning, Caitlin has been pushed around. The referees somehow overlooked half of her taking elbows and tripping. Known Sophie enters the room with a lot of energy and bustle, and then she suddenly tears an MCL. The blame is now being pointed by Sophie herself. Toward the next target on the hit list, Lexie Hull. Do you see the pattern? Since fans certainly do. The WNBA wants people to think that this is merely basketball played on a physical level. The issue is that spectators lose faith in coincidence when the same group of guys keeps getting banged around. They begin to have faith in objectives. And because of Sophie's remarks, Lexie Hull might as well have a bullseye on her shirt now. Let's dissect this further. Caitlin Clark isn't your typical athlete. She is this league's moneymaker. Sales of her social media activity, TV ratings, and jerseys are all smashing records. The WNBA wouldn't even have the same level of hype now without Caitlin. However, the league has somehow permitted her to be used as a punching bag. Then there's Sophie Cunningham, who has a strong personality that people can relate to and is charming and marketable. She has an MCL tear and is removed. Of the three, Lexie Hull is the quiet but dependable one. Fans will accuse the league of trashing its own product if she is the next to go down. Furthermore, the NBA would never permit this to occur. If someone like Caitlin Clark were to pursue LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Luka, it would make headlines everywhere, Donick. League investigations, rule modifications, and candy-coated sanctions would all be part of the package. It seems like they shrug and say, well, that's basketball. In the WNBA. I apologize, but that is carelessness. Let's return to Bria Hartley for a moment. Whatever you choose to call that smile or sneer, it has turned into the public face of this dispute. The narrative was immediately revealed to fans when they saw the picture of Sophie on the ground with her knee held by her hand and Bria standing there smiling. You may claim poor timing. You can argue about a misinterpreted moment, but people remember the image. Furthermore, Sophie's attempt to safeguard Bria just made everything worse. Suspicion. She almost seemed compelled to minimize it, as if she didn't want to cause a commotion. She did, however, affirm that players are aware of how hazardous things have become. Her warning about Lexie Hull is so terrifying because of this. For if Sophie, the victim of the recent incident, is essentially saying, hey, Lexie might be next, what does that tell you? It indicates that the players themselves are aware of the pattern. The league dislikes whistleblowers, so they simply can't say it directly. In the meantime, supporters are creating the noise that the league won't. They are requesting suspensions. They are demanding responsibility. Some even argue that Caitlin Clark should learn to support himself. Medical assessments conducted by anyone other than the Fever staff, because that system no longer has any remaining credibility. You have a serious problem when your own supporters don't believe in your medical professionals, referees, or journalists. And the WNBA is currently in that same position. Additionally, jealousy is a major problem that we must not overlook. Caitlin Clark's notoriety increased, but soared. Additionally, several players have made no secret of their distaste for the attention they receive in a league where veterans feel underappreciated and ignored. Sophie was automatically included in that spotlight. Additionally, even though she isn't a well-known figure, Lexie Hull has been standing alongside them, shoulder to shoulder. That trio is your target if you're a jealous rival trying to make a statement. Fans think Lexie might be the next one because of this. Furthermore, no one is arguing that the WNBA should be a no-contact league. Playing basketball requires physicality. Accidents occur. However, what appears to be targeted takedowns and natural contact are very different. When Caitlin is far from the ball, she is shoved. Basketball isn't that. Sophie's opponent smirks as her knee twists. It's also not basketball. Additionally, fans won't take bad luck as a reason if Lexie Hull ends up on the floor next anymore. Toughness is something the league loves to preach. They adore the notion of portraying the women's game as fierce and gritty. However, being tough does not equate to being careless. Being tough does not entail disregarding the fact that stars lose game after game. Furthermore, being tough does not entail taking pleasure in the suffering of others. Fans' fury is understandable if that is the WNBA's definition of toughness. This is where it becomes even more questionable. Take note of how this is being handled, or rather, not handled by the media in Indiana. Fans are publicly criticizing him for providing cover for the Fever front office by acting like. When the video implies otherwise, the chronology of Caitlin's injury is abundantly evident. When supporters witness Sophie's injuries firsthand, it would be foolish to pretend that it never happened. Fans are losing faith as a result. Not only do you lose credibility when the media joins the spin machine, rather than holding teams accountable, you also lose your audience. And that's where the actual risk lies. Not only to Lexie Hull or the Fever, but also to the WNBA as a whole. This league is sustained by its fans. Fans aren't dumb, either. The patterns are visible to them. They observe the partiality. They see the absence of openness. And it confirms their suspicions when Sophie Cunningham essentially states that Lexie Hull might be the next. That there is more to the Trace Letches trio's closeness than friendship or camaraderie. Being targets in a league that won't defend them has made them bond.